Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the Joint Conference Committee for Laguna Honda Hospital for August 13th, 2024. Mr. Morwitz, would you call the roll?
Yes, of course. I'll start with Commissioner Chow,
Present.
Commissioner Green,
Present.
and Commissioner Guillermo.
Present.
And I will read the land acknowledgement. The San Francisco Health Commission acknowledges that we are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the indigenous stewards of this land, and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. As guests, we recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush Ohlone community and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. The second item on the agenda are the approval of the minutes of the meeting of July 9th, 2023.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Morwitz. You have the minutes in front of you. If I can have a motion
Move to approve.
and a second.
I would second. I'm assuming that these are the corrected minutes.
Yes, once you all did the motion, I'm going to go through and name the corrections.
Okay. And then also, if we have any public comment as soon as you're done.
Sure. On page 1, Commissioner Guillermo called the meeting to order, not Commissioner Chow. On page 3, under hiring and vacancy report, the second sentence of Commissioner Green's comment, the sentence should read, Director Colfax noted that the DPH nursing vacancy rate went from 12% to 0%. And then finally on page 4, under regulatory affairs report, under Commissioner comments, Commissioner Green noted that the CDPH has not cleared out past facility reported incidents, and the word rated should be crossed out and reported should be replaced. Those are the amendments. Is there any public comment in the room for this item? See none, and I don't see a hand up online, so it looks like we could do a roll call vote unless you all have other comments, commissioners.
Doesn't look like any.
Okay, so Commissioner Chow, how do you vote on this item?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
And Commissioner Guillermo?
Yes.
And I apologize for my clerical errors. Thank you. We can move on to general public comment. Is there any comment in the room? Seeing none, I do see a hand. Mr. Manette Shaw, this is general public comment. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. This is Patrick Monette Shaw, code AA. I am speaking on a topic not on any of today's agenda items, so please don't cut me off. At long last, the Tommy Thompson versus City and County of SF lawsuit was awarded class certification status on July 26, 2024 by San Francisco Superior Court Judge Andrew Chang. Chang staff finally posted it online on July 26, granting the class certification and handing San Francisco City Attorney David Chiu a loss in court. Chang's July 26, 24 order reviewed Chiu's evidentiary objections to block certain of the exhibits, but Chang's order noted he took judicial notice of Brian Umpierre's Exhibit D, LHH Annual Report 2018 to 2019. Exhibit F, the LHH Settlement and Systems Improvement Agreement between CMS and LHH dated November 22, 2022. Exhibit H, HSAG's root cause analysis report number 1 dated December 1, 2022. Exhibit EE, SFDPH Code of Conduct 2018 version. Exhibit JJ, SFDPH's Notice of Data Breach dated March 15, 2019. And Exhibit QQ, the transcript of the HSAG/Troy Williams presentation at the CMS Quality Conference on April 10, 24. Notably, on page 5 of Chang's order, he noted the evidence appears to be consistent with plaintiff's allegations of systemic governance failures that was ongoing in 2020 and contributed to LHH's decertification in April 2022. It's clear to me that this health commission completely abrogated its responsibilities to LHH's patients. This commission deliberately or inadvertently let LHH's problems fester. The Health Commission's governance failures, as Christopher Cherney had alleged in his declaration, essentially contributed to and exacerbated Nivik Karose's culture of silence in 2019, which then led to a culture of neglect in 2020 and afterward, and ultimately led to LHH's decertification in 2022. Hopefully, health commissioners will finally sit up and take notice that LHH's Medicare recertification in June is not the end of LHH's and SFDPH's troubles. Commissioner Green should take note, as president of this commission's governing body culpability. After all, it's likely that in the foreseeable future, the Health Commission may eventually have to go into another closed session to again approve another massive multi-million-dollar settlement in favor of the class of patients now represented in the Thompson class action affair. It's clear that the class action certification presents a threat to DPH's and the Health Commission's control of Laguna Honda Hospital. It's a long overdue development in this justice delayed is justice denied sordid saga. Thank you.
That was the only public comment for that item. We can move on to item 4, the executive team report, and give me a second to pull it up. Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Roland Pickens, Director and CEO of the San Francisco Health Network. We and the members of the Laguna Honda leadership team who are here in person and those who are joining remotely look forward to providing you with our monthly update on Laguna Honda hospital operations. Next slide. I'm joined today by Diltar Sidhu, Interim Nursing Home Administrator and CEO for Laguna Honda Hospital, who assumed the helm at Laguna a little over a week ago after the departure of Sandra Simon in her role as Nursing Home Administrator and CEO. We thank Sandra for her contributions over the past 13 months, including her work in helping Laguna Honda achieve full CMS recertification. In the person of Diltar Sidhu, Assistant Nursing Home Administrator, certified and licensed in the state of California, and serving as the Interim Nursing Home Administrator and Chief Executive Officer. We have every confidence in the abilities he's shown over the past year or more he's been on with the organization, and we know he will be successful in this new interim leadership role. Diltar joined Laguna Honda in June of 2023. Before coming to Laguna Honda, he served as the nursing home administrator of a 200+ bed skilled nursing facility in the East Bay. Currently, we have a strong team of leaders at Laguna Honda to sustain the many improvements that have been made during the recertification period and to successfully resume and sustain operations going forward. I now call upon Diltar to provide you with that update on hospital operations, including the status of new admissions and other pertinent activities. Diltar.
Thank you, Roland. And hello, Commissioners. I'm Diltar Sidhu, the Interim CEO for Laguna Honda Hospital. First, I'm thrilled to share that the admissions to Laguna Honda have resumed. We welcomed our first resident on July 31st after more than 2 years of pause in admissions. And since we have welcomed a total of 3 residents, former residents of Laguna Honda Hospital. I had the pleasure to meet each one of them personally, and I can share with you that they're doing well. It's wonderful to see that these former Laguna Honda residents wanted to reconnect with the former nurses, social workers, and physicians and the care teams. It's also a testimony to their connection to Laguna Honda that after nearly 2 years, they wanted to return and call Laguna Honda home. And I think that's very special. We have contacted almost all the residents, former residents who were transferred at the direction of CMS, and we're in process of admitting 10 former residents whom have submitted their applications, and we're prioritizing those applications. And once again, I want to thank all the teams who are involved in the admission planning process to make this possible, and also the unit staff and the resident care teams who are really the building block of the strong foundation. Next slide. As we shared at the last month's JCC, new admissions are beginning gradually and thoughtfully, which includes close review of every new admission and pausing at set checkpoints to ensure that before we accept the new admissions, that we have all processes are working and in place. The first priority group for Laguna Honda residents transfer during recertification is well underway. We have also begun to review applications for our second priority group, not in the medical facility, who are residing whether at home and are in need of new skilled nursing or rehabilitation care facility. All admissions to Laguna Honda will be San Francisco residents in need of skilled nursing care. We know the important role Laguna Honda plays in San Francisco's healthcare safety net and look forward to continue welcoming new residents and update the public on our process. Next slide. As we know, COVID continues to circulate in the community, and unfortunately, Laguna Honda is not immune to that. After seeing an increase in resident and staff cases, we initiated surge protocol on July 1st and are pleased to now share that it was lifted. The surge protocol was lifted on July 31st, thanks to the decrease in COVID cases and transmission. I want to thank all the staff for their effort in keeping our community safe. Laguna Honda remains vulnerable setting for respiratory illnesses like COVID-19, and certain precautions still remain in place, such as masking on the campus, staff screening, and wearing N95 on outbreak units. We currently have 2 residents with COVID and 1 staff member. We're proud of our high vaccination rates, but are always working hard to increase the vaccination rate. Currently, 71% of the residents are up to date on their COVID vaccine, compared to the citywide rate of 33%. We continue to work closely with residents and their decision makers to offer the vaccine and provide education for their benefits. Now, I would like to invite Roland to provide certification updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Diltar, for that update on hospital operations. I'd like to continue the dialogue we've had for the last several months about the 120 beds that were taken offline as a result of the decertification process. As part of recertification, we've continually shared that we remain committed to regaining and recertifying these 120 beds through a waiver process that is available to us. We continue to make it clear to everyone the need to recertify those 120 beds, both to the California Department of Public Health and to CMS, given the importance of Laguna Honda in the overall skilled nursing bed count in San Francisco. In turn, CDPH and CMS have made it clear to us that they will be prepared to receive and consider our waiver application once we have demonstrated a sustained period of regulatory compliance. At this time, Laguna Honda is still in that period of demonstrating regulatory compliance, having just been recertified just 2.5 months ago. We remain committed and will continue to keep this JCC and Health Commission updated on our timeline for submitting that waiver and will do so at the earliest opportunity to ensure success as we continue to have dialogue with both CDPH and CMS. Diltar.
Thank you, Roland. On the discharge process, Laguna Honda continues to work on discharging residents who no longer require skilled nursing facility level of care. The discharge process is often challenging with extended timeline, with several barriers. Some of them include limited number of beds within the city, also a lack of participation from residents at times. Since facility-initiated discharges began in April 2023, Laguna Honda has discharged 34 non-skilled SNF level of care residents to the community, and last month it was at 31. Currently, there are 29 residents who we have identified as no longer needing SNF level of care. We continue to work closely with CDPH and other community partners in addressing barriers and finding most appropriate setting for our residents who no longer need skill level of care. Next slide. This is our regular slide with admissions, discharges, and unplanned discharges. And as you can see, in July, we had one admission. That's the change from the past. No questions? Next slide. Well, I want to end the presentation today with a photo from this year's Aid Walk. Beginning more than 25 years ago, Laguna Honda's Positive Care Unit formed an AIDS Walk team. And each year, staff, volunteers, and residents, both current and former, came together. At Laguna Honda, we are proud to have the Bay Area's only HIV/AIDS skilled nursing program. I want to say special thanks to the Positive Care team and everyone who joined us at this year's AIDS Walk, including Dr. Grant Colfax. Thank you, commissioners, for your time, and we'll take questions that you may have.
Thank you, Diltar, and welcome to your responsibilities under the interim role.
Thank you.
We look forward to your continued, work in that area as we move along. Can we see if there are any public?
Sure. Is there any public comment in the room? All right. I see one hand remotely. Mr. Manette Shaw, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. Slide 3 of today's executive team report states LHH's first admission occurred on July 31st, fully 41 calendar days after LHH received Medicare recertification on June 20th, 24. Wow. 41 days for one admission. The slide boasts that by August 9th, when today's agenda was published, LHH had admitted 3 patients. Really? 3 admissions took 50 days? At this snail's pace, it would take approximately 123 7-day periods at 3 admissions per 7-day period to return LHH's current 400 patient census back to its 769 SNF bed capacity, fully 2.36 years. Meanwhile, San Franciscans needing in-county SNF care will keep being granny dumped out of county. This slow pace isn't acceptable. Worse, Diltar Sidhu becoming LHH's interim CEO portends disaster. Sidhu was the NHA at the Fircrest Skilled Nursing Facility with 35 patients in Sebastopol in 2018 when CMS decertified Fircrest and it was forced to close. Sidhu isn't qualified to be LHH's 769-bed SNF CEO. Sandra Simon's premature departure as LHH CEO is shocking and sad after just 1 year of employment. As we all know, CMS looks very unfavorably on high turnover of nursing homes' top executives, so this is a black eye for LHH that Ms. Simon lasted just 1 year. When San Francisco spent $81,000 with Berkeley Search Consultants to hire Simon and spent $319,780 on her first-year salary as LHH's CEO and NHA, San Franciscans assumed that $400,000 investment was for Simon's continued new era of leadership sometime into the future. LHH went 15 years without a licensed nursing home administrator after Larry Funk was forced out in 2009 before Simon was hired in June 2023, much to LHH's detriment. San Franciscans had no idea that when Simon took the job at LHH in June 2023 that she was only making a one-year commitment just to get LHH through becoming fully CMS recertified. My sense is that the decision to embed San Francisco Health Network, SFHN, employees in physical offices at LHH to monitor Ms. Simon more closely on a day-by-day basis may have been just too much of an imposition on her authority as a CEO and as a credentialed nursing home administrator to put up with being micromanaged by SFHN's network executives who have no experience in long-term care settings. The Health Commission should take note that the embedding of SFHN staff in LHH's physical premises to Bird Dog Simon may have contributed to her sudden departure. It's sad seeing Simon depart after just 13 months on the job. LHH's patients deserve to have a highly qualified NHA like her who will commit to long-term employment. Thank you.
That is the only comment for this item.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Any? None? Okay, I have a couple questions then. First, I wanted to congratulate you on the vaccine rate of the residents at Laguna Honda at 71% versus 30-something% for the city. That's great to hear, and I'm sure contributed to the fact that we no longer are in the surge protocol. So hopefully that'll be sustained. I did have a question about you mentioned one of the reasons that the slow pace of the discharges for the non-SNF eligible patients is in part due to the participation of residents in the process. Could you describe a little bit more what that participation consists of and how big of an issue is that in being able to move the patients?
Priority 2 residents? Are we speaking?
No, we're talking about the discharges of the patients that no longer qualify for SNF level care.
Yes, so there's several barriers. There's residents, first of all, the availability of beds. So when we do have a resident who's ready for a discharge, sometimes it can take quite some time before a bed becomes available. That's a barrier. Also, there's residents, sometimes they don't participate in the process. And given that CDSS has certain regulations for admission into RCFEs as far as their admission process, so if the resident refuses to participate, it becomes challenging for us to discharge them to an RCFE, even though they might have a bed available for the resident to discharge.
So the participation means
So,
what?
for example, they have to go through an interview process as part of the admission requirement to an RCFE. So if the resident refuses their interview with the operator, then they would simply not accept the resident to their facility, or they refuse to sign the admissions application that we send to the RCFEs for review as part of the referral packet. If they don't sign it, a lot of the RCFEs, they will not even review the resident for admission to their locality or their facility.
Yeah, is there anything that we can do to encourage the residents to participate or to do more than encourage them?
We do, right? Working with them, making sure addressing their concerns, taking them tours of these facilities, because sometimes it could be an anxiety because they've been at Laguna Honda for a long time. So we work with them through the process, and we also engaged with CDSS and DHCS to work through some of these barriers as well.
Okay, is there unless we can somehow get the residents to participate more than that, is that would you say of the 29 that are remaining? And by the way, you had said that there's 31 discharges. I think the corrected number that we got today was 34.
34,
Yeah.
yes. I think 31 was previous month.
So of the 29 that are remaining, would you say that there is a low percentage of the non-participation residents or a high percentage of the?
I would have to get back with the numbers. I don't have the exact numbers, but we do have several residents who refuse to participate.
Okay, thank you. It'd be helpful to have some of that information in the future because it just gives us context as to why those discharges are at the pace that they are. Then just one other question about then the 120 beds waiver. You had mentioned that we have to show a sustained period of compliance. Do you have a sense from just from let's say number of months or number of weeks, what that sustained period might be? Or is it a period that is defined by the evidence of compliance?
Perhaps Roland want to answer.
Sure. I'll try to answer that since I've been in those discussions with CMS and CDPH. So as they've dialogued with us, their overriding concern is sustained regulatory compliance. When we've asked to have that quantified, it hasn't been quantified other than to say we will continue to closely monitor you. And as we know, they are on site often once or twice a week, or if not more. And so while they've been on site, so far there have been no issues of non-regulatory compliance since then. So again, we're only 2.5 months into this. From my perspective, if we have a few more months of non-compliance, I think that will go a long way in showing our readiness to potentially submit the waiver. We anticipate having much more in-depth dialogue with CDPH and CMS sometime in late September and October, and plan to really have a defined discussion about the timeline for the waiver. And I think we'll know a little bit more information around that time in terms of possibly we might be able to submit.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Commissioner. Mr. Pickens, I just want to you used the word non-compliance and you meant compliance.
Sorry.
And so I just want to make sure that the record is straight and that everyone who's hearing, and I apologize for jumping in.
No, great. Thanks for that catch. And appreciate very much the persistence that you and LHH has with regard to the waiver. I see that Dr. Chow has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. And first, because of my absence for several months, I did want to take this opportunity, since we've been recertified in the meantime, to really thank everybody at Laguna Honda personally, sort of in person, but at least by video here, in terms of this tremendous accomplishment, which I think when it began, we couldn't quite see the end of the tunnel. So, congratulations again, which I know you've all been receiving. I wanted to get some clarity again on the admission priorities, just simply because I think sometimes a summary on a slide may be somewhat misleading. I mean, it's clear in priority number 1, that's what we're doing right now, are the former Laguna Honda residents. It's not so clear to me between priority number 2 and I would say number 4 and number 5, from looking at the policy that you did send to us. So in priority number 2, I wanted to understand, not in medical settings, does that actually relate to, and that's in contrast then to priority 5, which says non-medical facilities, non-SFHN. But in non-medical settings, are we considering that being in a residential care situation is a non-medical setting, or is custodial also considered a non-medical setting, or are they considered medical settings? Residential care and independent living that moves along a continuum.
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. So an RCFE, or independent living facility, they're all non-medical facilities, although RCFEs are licensed, but they're not considered medical facilities. So they would fall under priority 2.
Okay, good. Thank you. Could I then ask, in the document that you submitted to us, under item 4, which in the summary says San Franciscans receiving SNF and or rehabilitation services in other facilities, That would sound like maybe somebody coming from St. Mary's, I guess. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me.
Well, in priority
refer-
4 in your slide, it says other facilities, and I guess trying to understand what is other facilities versus priority 5, non-SFHN medical facilities in this summary.
I can address that, Dr. Chow. So priority 4 would be San Francisco residents in another skilled nursing facility or acute rehab who would want to come to Laguna.
Oh,
Versus category 5 would be someone from, say, Sutter or Dignity or UCSF.
good. So, so it's other facilities which are really not hospital. Is it?
That is correct.
Okay. What was sent to us is part of the policy, and maybe it seems to read peculiarly, so maybe it's transcribed incorrectly. It says item number 4, which is priority 4, persons not in a medical facility, okay, who are receiving skilled nursing and or rehabilitation services. And then it goes on to then say adequate care in their present circumstances. So I'm not sure if it was meaning it's not receiving adequate care or, you know.
Yeah. Again,
So this is from your policy 2001.
yes. So again, thank you. So that policy, I believe, came to the JCC initially back in December or January, and it's made its way through, and we've been using that, preparing to use it for the new admissions. And so that again is to address a San Francisco resident either in another skilled nursing facility or rehab where they feel that they are not getting adequate care there and would prefer to come to Laguna Honda to receive that level of care.
Okay, so it really should be reading in the transcription to us, not adequate care or something like that, right?
Sure.
Because I was considering if this was a quote directly from the policy, then we should really be sure that we're correcting that to understand that policy in the way that you're describing it now. Okay, I just thought these should be clarified because sometimes the summary is not clear as to how we are doing priorities, and this refresher, since it's been since January or February, is helpful. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Green?
Yes, I was a little confused as well. So let's say someone ends up at St. Mary's, St. Francis, CPMC because they have a stroke or an accident that doesn't require the trauma level that we have at the general, but they're Medi-Cal. And they need skilled nursing placement and they're San Francisco residents. It sounds like many of them might be short-termers at Laguna because they need specific rehab for, say, an accident or stroke, but it sounds like they're low on the list of potential admits. And given the speed with which we're admitting people, what would happen to that person?
So thank you for the question. And that's been the reality ever since Laguna Honda was rebuilt 10 years ago and going back 20 years ago when the other hospital systems all closed their skilled nursing facilities. And so essentially the combination of fewer beds at Laguna Honda, the old hospital had 1,500, this one has 780 plus. And the fact that those other systems divested of their own skilled nursing beds put them in competition for patients within our own Department of Public Health, San Francisco Health Network. So they are priority 5. As you know, with the changes in healthcare, particularly going to more managed care, we look at, we are compensated based upon the entire care needs of an individual. And so basically the changes in healthcare really helped to drive some of the prioritization as to consideration for admission at Laguna.
So in other words, if it's a San Francisco Health Network patient and because of EMTALA, they end up at a different institution, they would be below priority of number 3 just because number 3 was lucky enough to go to one of our facilities?
So if they're a San Francisco Health Network patient who ends up at another hospital, which often happens, they are priority group 3.
They are 3.
Yeah, they are 3.
And then the other curiosity I had is obviously over time, some of the residents no longer qualify for skilled nursing. And I'm not sure I understand how often you reassess the population, because we're looking at these numbers and you may be doing great, but we're seeing more people because more people don't qualify to be there. So is there a timeline where you reassess, and can we see, we're seeing, it seems like it's been so static, but now we're getting readmissions and so forth. And I'm wondering if suddenly, 10 more people qualify not to be at Laguna, suddenly we've got, 41 as opposed to, what looks like 34. And I'm just wondering, or rather, I think, what is it, 21 left? Yeah, and you don't want to have more of that because you've actually done a good job of assessing the population. So I'm wondering, how often that happens and how we'll understand that one parameter.
Thank you for that question. Typically, in skilled nursing facility, we use this phrase where we say the discharge process begins on the day of admission. So basically, when admission comes in, our RCT team engages with the resident to understand their goals and start planning for their discharge from that point. So it's a constant engagement, which aligns towards what their goals are, how much progress they're making, so we can align the discharge process with their goals. As far as the current residents, we usually, at least quarterly, will continue to look at and evaluate the residents to see if they could be placed in a lower level of care. So it's kind of mixed.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be helpful just so we don't underestimate the work you're doing to know when those reevaluations take place, and maybe if we see 29 still there instead of 39 instead of 29, we know that it's just that you reassess individuals rather than anything else.
And that number could change, right? There could be a resident who's on the list now and they may have declined and they come off the list. And there's somebody who may have improved and they gets added to the list. So that number could change over time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So it's a dynamic number.
Dynamic number, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to know, that 29 that we see now could be a different, it could be different people that are in that 29 at some point in the future, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. That's a good important point. So any other questions? Okay, we can move on.
Great, thank you. Item 5 is the hiring and vacancy report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am pleased to read the August 2024 staffing report. LHH vacancies stand at 7.2%, seeing a rise from 5.37 in July. Just want to put a note here to
Priya, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I apologize. It may be a technical issue, but the camera is not on you. It's on something else. Is it possible to get the camera on you? And if not, then it's fine. It's just that all we're seeing is kind of a weird blurred image.
let me try again.
Oh, that's great.
Is it better?
Yes, yes, yes.
I just
Now you're
stopped
there.
the video and tried again.
All right, thank you.
So the Laguna vacancies see a rise from the July data, but I just wanted to put in a note here to let the commissioners know that end of the fiscal year, there has been system reconciliations and shutdown windows that may be impacting our data, as many hires and appointments that have been processed in the time that the system shut down would not show up. So it could be that there are a lot of vacancies there are a lot of appointments that still show up in the July data as vacancies. And there's really no way for us to recorded, except that in the next month, we'll be able to provide a much more realistic representation. So it's quite likely that the 7.2% vacancy rate that we are seeing is much lower next month because the system has reconciled a lot of the data and the hires and appointments records have been uploaded into the system. Just wanted to make that point clear. Going on to the staffing report, we hired a total of 25 employees in various classifications between July 1st and July 31st, 2024, and had 5 separations during the same period with no retirements. We continue to prioritize and support the hiring of the registered nurse class 2320. The vacancy rate currently stands at 1.01% for the month of July 2024, which translates into 2 vacancies. After 2 vacancies, we have filled both these positions with starts happening in the next pay period in August. We hired a total of 5 registered nurses last month. With regards to the nursing manager, so the 23-22 classification, we continue to move candidates through the selection process for the 4 remaining vacancies that we have open. There are currently 5 openings for the 2312 licensed vocational nurses classification, for which we are in the midst of the onboarding process. The HR team is also continuing to process vacancies within several other classifications through an efficient batch hiring process. We're currently hiring for the health worker series, classifications 2586 and 2587. We have 23 vacancies across DPH for the 2586 Health Worker 2 classification and 13 vacancies for the 2587 classification. The team is also working to fill 6 vacancies across DPH in the Health Program Coordinator 3 for the 2593 classification and 31 vacancies in the 2430 classification, the medical evaluations assistant positions. As we look to fill the vacancies across DPH, the batch hiring process continues to help identify efficiencies and ensure a better outcome for both candidates and hiring managers. The HR team continues to regularly hold planning meetings with exec leaders and hiring managers on a weekly, monthly basis to go over vacancy information and hiring plans. RN highlights for the month: 5 2320 registered nurses started last month. Non-RN highlights: 4 2303 or patient care assistants started last month. 1 2312 licensed vocational nurse started last month. We had 1 supervising physician specialist in the 2233 classification start last month, and we had 1 senior physician specialist in the classification 2232 start last month. Thank you.
Thank you, Priya. Is there any public comment on this?
Is there any public comment in the room? All right, we do have 1 public comment, and I have to pull up a slide. Mr. Minetshaw, give me a second to pull up the slide. When you see it, you can begin.
I'm not logged on to WebEx. You're going to have to tell me when I can start.
Okay, the slide is up. You can start.
Thank you.
It's surprising seeing in today's vacancy report by FTE that LHH's vacancies increased from 5.4% in July to 7.2% in August. As shown in my chart on the overhead display, it's somewhat shocking to see that the total number of LHH's budgeted FTE positions was cut by 50 positions between the July 2024 vacancy report by FTE compared to the August report. Worse, between July and August, the number of filled or utilized FTE positions has dropped by almost 74 positions. Of concern, almost half of the loss of 50 budgeted positions occurred among frontline nursing staff job classifications providing direct patient care, and over half of the drop in filled positions were also nursing positions. It's somewhat shocking shocking seeing that the number of registered nursing filled positions in job classification code 2320 dropped by 19 across a single month. How likely is it that the decrease in filled RN positions was due to retirements? Why are RN positions not being filled? And just as a point LHH is ostensibly moving towards resuming admission of patients, it's shocking seeing there has been a loss of 38 filled nursing positions across these 4 nursing job classification codes. Notably, today's report does not show a vacancy in LHH's only 0943 job classification position, the position Sandra Simon just left as LHH's CEO and nursing home administrator. How soon will LHH start another nationwide search using Berkeley Search Consultants to recruit for a qualified CEO with substantial experience running a skilled nursing facility as large as LHH? Obviously, Dilter Sidhu does not have that level of experience. Thank you.
That is the only public comment for this item.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the members? Yes, Dr. Green.
I have one question. I apologize if I missed it. On the very last page here, you have a list of managers that are in the 900 category, and there are 8 different managers. Those must be different types of managers. I was just wondering what that signifies. It's on page 404.
Yes, that is the managerial classification. So the 09 classification denotes management positions, and we don't have vacancies currently for the budgeted FTE positions at Laguna.
So are those nursing managers or are those managers for any department? That's what I was just wondering.
Yeah, that spans all departments.
Okay. All right. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Dr. Chow?
Yes, I had a question in your report. You had indicated that the Laguna vacancies are up a little, and you explained why some of them may that percentage may in fact be overstated because of the shutdown in the computer data. Then you went on and you talked about a number of different categories being hired, and you mentioned that they were DPH wide. So is the remainder numbers after your first paragraph DPH wide, or are some of those LHH specific?
These are largely LHH specific. The only positions that I talk about that's across DPH relate to the batch hiring process. So the very last paragraph where we're talking of the health worker series, the health program coordinator series, those are DPH wide. So my team also supports with the hiring of the batches. So it's more efficient that way when you have, several vacancies across DPH, you're looking at the same talent pool, and it's so much more efficient for the hiring manager to work with a few analysts to fill these positions across all locations.
Good. I noted that you talked about DPH. So then the RN highlights and the non-RN highlights, items number 2 and 3 are Laguna Honda specific also.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Okay, I guess we can move on.
All right. Thank you, Priya. Item 6 is the Regulatory Affairs Report.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Geraldine Mariano, Director of Regulatory Affairs, and I'm here to present the July 2024 Regulatory Affairs Report. During the month of July 2024, a total of 5 facility-reported incidents were reported to CDPH, and 8 anonymous complaints were investigated. There were 2 on-site visits by CDPH in the month of July, one in July 10, and the second one was in July 24. On July 10, CDPH investigated the 5 anonymous complaints and with 0 deficiencies. And on July 24, CDPH investigated 2 facility-reported incidents and 3 anonymous complaints, all with 0 deficiencies. And also on August 8th, CDPH provided us the official list of pending facility reported incident cases for Laguna Honda. The list reflected a total of 96 facility reported incidents, 11 from 2023 and 85 from 2024. The oldest case is from November 2023. The rest of the pending facility reported incidents were from 2019 to 2023, were administratively closed with no deficiencies. Please let me know if there are any questions or comments that I can address at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine. Is there public comment?
Any public comment in the room? I don't see any, and we do have one online. Would you like to make? There's not back and forth with questions, and you always are welcome to speak at the podium, not from the audience. But we can go to the remote public comment. Mr. Monetshall, give me a second to bring up the slide, and I'll let you know when it's up.
All right, thank you.
Today's regulatory affairs.
You can go. It's up.
What is this?
All right, thank you, Mark.
Today's regulatory affairs report is troubling, despite the fact that for the first time in a long time, the number of new facility reported incidents, FRIs, has dropped to just 5 that occurred during July. I note that the backlog of outstanding FRIs without a document request or a call or visit plummeted from 359 outstanding FRIs reported in July to just 96 outstanding FRIs as of today's report. This suggests there are 263 fewer unresolved FRIs. But how did they all clear up so suddenly? Were they just swept under the rug? Of note, while the July Regulatory Affairs Report presented charts and tables documenting the number of FRIs for the 6 fiscal years between 2019 and 2024, in today's report, all of the charts and tables suddenly eliminated data for 2019 through 2022. Worse, deficiencies received from all FRIs reported as having been 38 in 2023 on the July report suddenly dropped to just 12 deficiencies in today's report, a vanishing act of 26 FRI deficiencies. Once a deficiency in 2023 was reported as having been received for an FRI that occurred in 2023, how were they suddenly reduced? Most readers assumed from the table that a given FRI submitted in 2023 had actually received a deficiency for a FRI that had been reported in 2023, not that a deficiency eventually issued in 2023 may have been received for an FRI reported in a previous calendar year other than in 2023. Similarly, how could 142 investigations not have been started for FRIs reported in 2023, as reported on the July report, have now suddenly dropped to just 11 FRIs in 2023 as not having started investigations, as of today's August report? As shown in my chart, were 131 investigations that had not yet been started for FRIs reported in 2023 simply dropped and were never fully investigated by CDPH? Finally, in July, the Regulatory Affairs Report showed LHH had received 15 deficiencies for anonymous complaints submitted in 2023, and today's report claims LHH received only 6 deficiencies in 2023. Did CDPH rescind 9 of the deficiencies LHH received, previously reported by LHH's Quality Management Department in July? Thank you.
That's the only public comment.
Okay, any questions or comments from members of the committee? Oh, okay, Commissioner Chow.
Yes, I was interested in your new charts, and we talked about or had sent you an inquiry as to what happened to the old FRIs. And the reply from staff is that all prior cases have been administratively closed without deficiencies by CDPH. So is that correct in face of what also we heard in public testimony?
Yes, that is correct. So as Geraldine shared, we finally received the official notice from CDPH that we had been waiting for before we updated our report, that all cases prior to November 2023 that had been remained pending on our prior reports had been made administratively closed without deficiencies. So the new report now shows the remaining cases that are open with CDPH. So both our records are in sync now, and we can accurately track what follow-up we are waiting for.
Very good. That's great news from after all these years of watching the old charts.
Yes.
So these
Much
are
easier
now,
to read now.
okay, thank you. Very good.
Yeah, I recall that for quite a few months now, right, Naz, you've been reminding us that you've kept them on the books until we received the official notice
Yes, that's
that they were cleared. So it is a big relief to know that you can wipe them, well, not wipe them off the books, but close the books on
Yes.
those, and that the I guess all of them had no deficiencies. Is that
That's
correct?
right.
That
Yes,
is
that's-
amazing. So
Mhm.
again, congratulations on that. We still have a lot of work to do, but it's really a great relief to hear that those are officially closed and we can move forward from here. Okay. Oh, yes, Commissioner Green.
Yes, yeah, great news. And one thing I was wondering, in light of the fact that they've actually sped through some of these, I was curious when there's an anonymous complaint, obviously they want to start some kind of investigation. And so we know about it when the investigation begins. But have you seen any trend now that they seem to be more efficient, that we hear about an anonymous complaint and they are actually resolving it sooner, or is that a pipe dream? Because I see that, you have 8 here in July with no deficiencies, 18 in April among the anonymous complaints with none. So I'm wondering if you're seeing any, it used to be months, it seems. Is this something that we can actually look forward to? More speedy adjudication and resolution, or is this just, are we dreaming here?
I think let's stay positive and think that it will remain to be an efficient process on both sides. And what we learned when they came out for those anonymous complaints was that those had been on hold because we learned that they also have a prioritization process with their anonymous complaints. We don't know what that is. We don't know what their formula is. But essentially those 8 had been deprioritized during the recertification efforts. Now that the facility has been recertified, those complaints needed to be addressed and closed out.
All right, well, we'll hope that this trend continues. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we can, oh, Mark, did you?
Might we, since there was a question from a member of the public, could we ask for a definition of deficiency so that could be answered for the public?
Sure, I think that's helpful anyway to have a reminder.
Right. Could y'all define both the finding as well as deficiency, just so the public can understand those two terms which are on the reports and what we talk about? It could be confusing.
Sure, no problem. So when CDPH comes on site, or if they do a desk review, for any anonymous complaint or facility reported incident, CDPH must do a review to ensure the facility is in line with regulation in their response process documentation, et cetera. If they find that the facility did not adhere to a particular requirement in the state operations manual, which we call a finding, the facility will receive a deficiency. So sometimes they are one and the same. But however, what we like to do is, so we say, okay, we received a deficiency in F600, just one of the federal tags. Within that deficiency, it might have a number of findings. So there might have been, more than one reason why the facility received that deficiency.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And is okay move on, Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay. Item 7 is the Laguna Honda policies.
Hey, Carmen.
Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So for today, I have 15 policies to present. There are 2 hospital-wides. Both of them are revisions. The first one is 01-14, Compliance Program Discipline. And then the second one is intravenous vancomycin per pharmacy dosing protocol. There are 13 departmental policies. For medical services, there were 4. One revision for 001-02, night and weekend physician services. And 3 deletions, 003-04, billing for physician services acute, 003-05, billing for physician services SNF, 003-06, billing for physician services consultations. There were 5 nursing policies, 2 of them were revisions. The first one is C1.3, discharge procedure to acute, and the second one is L1.0, emergency intervention for choking. There were 3 deletions. The first one is A 10.0, utilization and monitoring of P103 and per diems. A 11.0, utilization of OT staff. And the last one is advanced practice nurse, nurse practitioner, CNS preamble. There were 4 social services policies. All 4 were revisions. The first one is 7.5, discharges to the acute care unit, PMA. 7.6, documentation of care plans. 7.7, discharge planning and implementation. And finally, 7.9, readmissions assessments. Those are the 15 policies.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments that were not addressed in the written responses?
And actually, I just want to check for public comment.
Oh,
real
sorry,
quickly. No,
yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Any public comment on this item? All right, and I don't see anything remotely, so you all can.
Okay, it's actually nice to know that these policies and procedures actually fit in the packet and didn't have to be separately batched. I think I don't know if that's an indication of future to come, but it's nice to know that we didn't have to carry around an extra binder clip. Oh, yes, Dr. Green.
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to thank you for all the answers, and feel free to go over them in the meeting here, because I always feel bad that you have to spend so much time writing these things out, and certainly we can tell. I mean, I can tell by looking at these that there's been a lot of good review, and I think the questions we're asking are very clinical in nature, as opposed to explaining or having policies that are more confusing. So this is very, very helpful, and I certainly appreciate it.
Okay. Do we need to recommend or move to recommend approval?
And as you've done in the past, you may add language saying, per the if the changes are acceptable to you, that you recommend to the full commission.
Yeah, well, I'll move to recommend these policies to the full commission, given that the changes have been accepted by the committee.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
I will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Chow, how do you vote on this item?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
And Commissioner Guillermo?
Yes.
All right, thank you. This will be put on the consent calendar for the next full health commission meeting. Thank you, Carmen. We can move on to a consideration for a closed session.
Okay. Oh, yes. Mr. Pickett.
Oh.
Before going there, I'd like to come back to a question and clarify a response I gave to you, Commissioner Green, regarding the admissions status of a San Francisco Health Network patient who may be in another facility.
And Mr. Pickett, before you get there, I just want to note, just for the record, so we're going back to item 4, just to clarify, and something from the executive team report.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And I invite Dr. Albert Lamb and Nita Ratanawanska to join in because they're listening. So I mistakenly said that person, while they are a San Francisco Health Network patient who might be in a bed at a non-SFHN facility, would be considered priority 3. Drs. Lamb and Ratanawanska corrected me to say that they would still be considered in a priority category number 5. And I invite them to kind of explain the reasoning behind that. But I wanted to make sure we clarify that before we went into closed session. So Albert and Nita, invite you to offer opinion on that.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. As you know, this criteria, and as has been stated before, this criteria has been developed and approved by the commission prior to my arrival. However, I do believe that there is good reason for the priority setting as is. That is San Francisco General, Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital is a safety network hospital for San Francisco. And it is important to prioritize, at least nominally prioritize, the transfer of those patients into our nursing facility beds as appropriate, at a higher priority level than the non-San Francisco Health Network hospitals. I do think that that the difference between those two priority settings does not seem probably will not be very material until we reach a higher capacity. And we reach a higher capacity, at which point the priority settings will have to understand the impact on our residents and of San Francisco, our San Francisco Health Network members.
And I'd like to add just a little bit more too. So my recollection of some of the discussions over the past months and years has been, one of the reasons, first of all, on any given day, we have San Francisco Health Network patients who are in other hospitals because we don't have capacity at Zuckerberg. So there may be 40 to 60 patients a day that are actually our patients that are actually in other hospitals. My recollection, the reason that individuals would be considered in category 5, even though they are members, is because the thought was that at least they are in a safe place, they're in a facility, and so rather than having the overall category 5 somehow have a departure from individuals in other facilities, and the fact that we are actually still paying for that resident in the other hospital, and there's the long reasoning is we're actually paying very favorable rates, even though they're at another hospital. But we can certainly have more discussion about it, but just wanted to give you some of the history. The history was that while they are in another hospital, at least they are in a safe place. And so that's why they were not listed higher on the priority list.
Yeah.
I
Sorry. I did want to
sorry, go
clarify
ahead,
too.
sorry.
Yeah. So one of the key things about priority group 5 was that there used to be multiple priority and they were collapsed together. So it used to be whether they were in a facility within San Francisco or whether they were in a facility outside San Francisco, and people brought to the Health Commission with good reason, what if my family member is outside of San Francisco at a facility? So for ease of prioritization and flexibility, the groupings that distinguish a facility in and outside of San Francisco were collapsed with the advice of the Health Commission. And then the last thing I wanted to clarify was priority grouping 4. Both 4 and 5 represent people who are safe. They are in a facility and they are, in 5, they're in a facility and they're receiving the care they need. In 4, they are not in a facility, but they're getting really good care that meets the criteria of skilled nursing facility. I actually have family members caring for a patient of mine who are providing really close to sniff level care with additional services, and they're at home and they're happy at home and they want to stay at home. But they're getting good care, but at some point they may choose that they want to have their loved one come from home or a non-medical facility into a skilled nursing facility like Laguna Honda for what we offer. And so priority grouping 4 is somebody who is not in a facility but getting adequate care and safe.
Do you think, in terms of assessing people that might qualify as group 4, would that be a time-consuming process, or in terms of evaluating whether the person is qualified to be there, and also, whether it's appropriate, and whether then just mobilizing that person would take some time? Whereas if you're someone in group 5, obviously there's a financial risk to our system, and people have clearly vetted these individuals as qualifying. So I'm wondering how these may be very small numbers, but I'm wondering if we can only admit so many people in a given window of time until this readmission process is really smooth. Would group 4 slow down admissions of group 5 who are evaluated, presumably embedded and we're paying for, versus people at home who might need a little bit more evaluation and take more time to ensure that they do belong at Laguna?
I think the graph that shows the tessellation of the opening of evaluations of packets is a helpful one, because I think by opening 2 applications in series, but then leaving each priority group open, I think it'll allow for the team to have the flexibility to say, it will take, for example, priority to group 2, we have applications for people at home right now. It does take extra time, extra documentation from our primary care and an interview. And so that can take a while to go. But when somebody is evaluated to meet the criteria and be a candidate for admission, they can be prioritized for a bed. So I think it's about making sure that once they're fully evaluated and accepted, the prioritization for the beds takes into account those 5 priority groupings. But it shouldn't be that we will never open for one of our patients who's at one of our neighboring health systems hospitals because we haven't yet had someone in group 4 come in. I don't would make any sense at all.
Thank you. That's the clarification I wanted, because, in some of the affordable housing, people come up for their number and then they get time to decide where they want to live. Meanwhile, no one else can pick a place. So this is very fluid, in other words. And if there's an obvious priority that happens to otherwise be group 5, you do have latitude, because I remember this in the policy, that you do have latitude in it isn't so strict. It's not like boarding at the airport where you better darn well show your ticket and be in this group. So that's what it sounds like I'm hearing, right?
Yes, I think the main change that happened with the revisions of the policies was adding priority group 1, which we knew was a top important thing for all of us to do, and where we've been successful with beginning admissions.
Great, thanks. That's really what I wanted to know.
Thank you. Dr. Chow, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure that, and I believe the answer is yes, that patients from Laguna who have been discharged to another facility, acute facility, this does not apply, right, in terms of their return to Laguna? Because
they're group 1.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
So for those who were transferred to another facility during the closure process, they are priority group 1. It's certainly possible that there may be people who, prior to 2018, were discharged and they weren't part of priority group 1. They would be evaluated under whichever priority group they currently fall based on where they are and what their needs are.
Well, I'm actually thinking of those who need to go to an acute facility to which we discharge or don't discharge according to a policy that's a little confusing.
No.
But
yeah, they aren't discharged in that way. They come back and are readmitted,
okay.
Which we've been doing 300 over the last few.
All right. Okay, because I know we have a number of people who then go to like UC or St. Mary's, and then they can come back and they're not under this
correct
5-step priority. Okay.
Correct. We've had 7.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pickens, for bringing up that clarification and allowing for additional questions and clarifications. Okay, so now we can go into a move for a closed session.
I'll move to go into closed session.
I would second.
Commissioner Chow, how do you vote on this issue?
Yes.
Commissioner Green?
Yes.
And Commissioner Guillermo?
Yes.
All right. So those of you in the room, please, thank you for coming, but we'll have to escort you out and close the door. And then those remotely, you will not see or hear us while we're in the closed session, but we will be back and you're welcome to wait. I'm not sure if there's music or not, but there will be silence and likely no visual. All right. Everyone else give me 30 seconds, please. Back in open session. Commissioners, please consider a motion to disclose or not disclose discussions held in closed session.
Move not to disclose.
I would second.
Commissioner Chow, how do you vote on this item?
Yes.
Issue. Commissioner Green, how do you vote on this issue?
Yes.
And Commissioner Guillermo?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. And then finally, consideration for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
I would second.
Commissioner Chow, how do you vote on this item?
Yes.
And Commissioner Green?
Yes.
Finally, Commissioner Guillermo.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone. Give me 30 seconds to shut us down. Have a good day.